Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, salam alaikum, namaste, buenos dias. We've got a very nice international mix in the room. Thank you very much for coming along. This 90-minute session is going to focus on the theme of rethinking conservation through the lens of food sovereignty, and we're going to try and explore some of the implications for policy and practice. We have 5-6 speakers, and what I'd like to do is introduce them now and then subsequently call them up, invite them up when they are to give their presentation. I'm not very happy with the structure of this room. It's very formal, but what we will do is use this format for the presentations, but when we move into the discussion, it might be nice to rearrange the room. We can undo the chairs and perhaps create a circle, and I think that will give us a nice interlude and energizer before we enter the discussion part of the session. And we're at liberty to move the room around, and if there's a problem, I take responsibility for that. So let me introduce people who've kindly agreed to offer some thoughts to stimulate the discussion. First, I'd like to introduce Shan Sullivan, who's a lecturer in Environment and Development at Berkeley College at the University of London. Shan has extensive field experience in Namibia, working with local communities and indigenous peoples there. Then Jim Igo, who's assistant professor at the Department of Anthropology at Dartmouth College in the USA. Taggy Farber, who will be joining us, he is currently the outgoing chair of the Commission on Environment, Economic and Social Policy, CESP, and also director of Sinesta, an Iranian-based organization that deals with sustainable development and works with lots of local communities, notably nomadic pastoralists. And then we have from Peru, Alejandro Argumedo, who is the director of Andes. Andes is an indigenous governed organization that deals with sustainable development issues and right-based approaches to indigenous peoples' issues. And I'm also pleased to welcome Lalji, who comes from Gujarat, India. Lalji is a pastoralist, and he works with Marag, an organization which he founded. And finally, I'm Michel Pimbert. I work at IIED, the International Institute for Environment and Development in the UK, where I direct the Sustainable Agriculture, Biodiversity and Livelihoods program. Now, Taggy isn't here, so I'm going to change the order of the presentation a little bit and maybe offer a few definitions. And when Taggy arrives, he will remind us of the resolution adopted by the IUCN in Bangkok on food sovereignty. And I think it's important that we hear this resolution because this is normally IUCN policy, given that the resolution has been adopted by the Assembly in Bangkok. But let's be perfectly clear what we're talking about today. We're really taking a very broad definition of agriculture to include all kinds of food providers and their food-producing environments. So not just crop farmers, but also pastoralists, livestock herders, fisherfolk, forest dwellers, and urban and peri-urban farmers. And moreover, we're not just talking about food production, food provisioning, and agriculture per se, but also about the whole food system and food chain. So looking at the system from seed to plate, and that means that consumers are in the loop. So we're looking at all categories of food providers and consumers. And the other important definition for this session is that we're considering diverse food providing environments. And for many of us, these food providing environments include protected areas where you have people inhabiting those conservation areas. So we're really talking about humanized ecosystems rather than so-called pristine wilderness, and wanting to overcome what many of us see as a false dichotomy between domesticated and wild landscapes. Acknowledging that local food systems are embedded in virtually all types of ecosystems found on Earth, and that people and nature co-generate biodiversity and ecosystem functions at different scales. I think these definitions are important to view food providers and food providing landscapes in that way, and move away from categories which many development organizations and conservation organizations still use. So that gives you an indication of the relevance of this discussion on food providing for all the landscapes which many participants in this Congress are interested. We're including protected areas and conservation landscapes in this as part of a redefinition of food, agriculture, and land use.